Ladies and gentlemen, it's time to get your house in order right now. China is preparing for retaliation, and the conflict between the US and China is about to escalate and escalate rapidly. I'm sure you've heard about the story of the so-called alleged Chinese spyware that was going over the US and was reported or came aware to the public on Wednesday. But what many people don't know is it came into US airspace much earlier than that. The White House knew about it. So in today's video, we're going to go over how the White House tried to cover up this story, the big failures they made, go over the breaking news footage of the US shooting down this Chinese spyware balloon, and then go over China's statement and them saying there is going to be retaliation. So everyone, this is going to be a very, very important video, and this could literally change everything for the macroeconomic environment, for the geopolitical environment. This could change a lot of things for what's going to happen in the markets. There's so many black swan events that could come from this, and even worse. So make no mistake, I am warning you, it's time to get your house in order. Prepare now, because things are going to escalate. So okay everyone, let's get into the news, the facts, and the data. So first things first, what many people don't know, the US wanted to keep China's spy balloon under the radar. Now this all started in Montana on Wednesday when the public first became aware of this. Stargazing is nothing unusual in Montana, where skies go on forever. But as Chief Doak left work on Wednesday, he looked up on a cold winter day. He saw a mysterious round white object that was clearly neither the moon or a star. He began to film something that could come straight out of a movie where science fiction meets the Wild West. Within 48 hours, the strange thing that went on to confound the residents of Billings was revealed to be a suspected Chinese surveillance balloon. He tweeted, "Not gonna lie, first I thought this was a UFO, then I thought it was Elon Musk in a Wizards of Oz cosplay scenario, but it was just a run-of-the-mill Chinese spy balloon." That's right everyone, a lot of people in Montana were looking at this and they're saying, is it a bird? Is it a plane? No, it's Chinese surveillance spyware. But here's where the story takes a twist. The US authorities were actually aware of this Chinese surveillance balloon since Saturday, the 28th of January. Listen to this. As it turns out, authorities were aware the unidentified object had entered American airspace on January 28, that it had then left and re-entered over North Idaho on Tuesday. But with such a high-profile trip at stake, keeping on the down low was key. So well everyone, this is absolutely huge. It has been in US airspace for a week until it was ultimately shot down. So who knows how much data they got, how much information they got, and if they only ultimately shot it down after it completed its mission. By the time it became visible in Montana, President Joe Biden had already been briefed and the White House scrambling to decide whether to blast it from the sky. So the gravity of the situation was only exacerbated by Montana being home to the Moultrie Air Force Base, houses a large proportion of US Minuteman intercontinental ballistic missiles. So on Wednesday, Biden huddled with his national security team to receive a detailed briefing on the balloon. The president argued for shooting the object down, but was urged against doing so by his most senior military advisors. So which advisors was that everyone? Well, Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin and Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff Mark A. Miley insisted that a move would put civilians at risk, people familiar with the discussion said. Asked the Chairman of Joint Chiefs of Staff Mark A. Miley, remember what happened when Trump was in office? He actually called China and said, "We'll call you and I'll actually tell you personally if we're going to attack and before we attack." So there's a lot of suspicions there that he may have some ties to China or he sold out the US to China. And yet again with this situation, he said not to attack, not to shoot it down. So who knows what information China has already got, thanks to our US generals not shooting it down as soon as it got in US airspace. So it said on Wednesday, the White House opted not to inform the American public. However, events soon forced Biden's hand. On Thursday afternoon, a local Montana paper published a photo of the balloon, meaning it was only a matter of time until national media would pick up on the report and the Biden administration would have to face questions. Which we all saw the press releases, they'll ask him question after question, and he just turned his back and walked away on the American people. But listen to their terrible response in order to try to keep the public calm. Administration officials stressed that this was not the first time such incident and that similar activities had been observed over the past several years. So that's right everyone, they're saying, don't worry, they've been spying on us for years, nothing to worry about it, this is old news. So after earlier calling on the US to refrain from hyping the incident, China finally commented on the balloon directly in a statement Friday morning, attributing it to a force maneuver for which it was not responsible. So again, China's saying, look, we just had this balloon and it kind of just floated all the way down there on accident. And it accidentally, coincidentally, floated over a bunch of US military bases. China said the balloon flew off course and entered US airspaces by accident, adding that it was regretful over the incident and that the balloon's purpose was climate research. But of course, we all know that's not the case, and US officials knew this wasn't the case as well. A former American intelligence analyst, the official Chinese explanation mirrored a well-worn excuse for aerial espionage. He says, I don't know anyone that conducts a meteorological balloon the size of 3 school buses. So US officials that spent hours debating whether Blinken should scrap a long-planned trip to Beijing finally felt they had no choice but to postpone the first high-level US visit to China in 5 years. So that's just the first piece of the story, everyone. US officials tried to keep this under wraps. They tried to keep this hush-hush, and it was only until the public became aware of it, then they tried to still dismiss it, say nothing to worry about, it's too dangerous to shoot down. It was only until the American people had an absolute outcry that it was eventually shot down. So let's go ahead and turn to this footage and also go over China's statement and response. So at about 2:39 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, an F-22 fighter jet fired a missile at the balloon, puncturing it while it was about 6 nautical miles off the coast of Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, senior defense officials said. So Biden broke his silence about the balloon for the first time Saturday, telling a group of reporters we're going to take care of it. Later that afternoon, he told reporters that he instructed officials to shoot it down like we went over previously in the video on Wednesday, but they wanted to wait until it was safe as possible. Now, this makes sense, but I'm sure there was many circumstances since the 28th of January, I'm sure there was many times where it could have been safe to shoot it down. So Blinken also told Chinese Director of Central Foreign Affairs Office a call on Friday that the balloon was an irresponsible act and a clear violation of US sovereignty and international law, and that undermined the purpose of the trip, according to a readout of the discussion. So that's just the second piece of the story, everyone. First, the US government didn't want to tell the people. They shot it down. Who knows after how much information they got, and who knows what will happen next time they bring a balloon, if it will have any kind of weapons on it, etc. But now let's go ahead and listen to China's response. So China says it reserves the right to deal with similar situations after US jets shot down the suspected spy balloon. So this is their response, everyone. The US used force to attack our civilian unmanned airship, which is an obvious overreaction. This is absolutely insane, everyone. I think they gave them ample time, and it's actually an underreaction. We expressed solemn protest against this move by the US side, Chinese defense military spokesman said in a statement on Sunday afternoon local time. He said China will resolutely safeguard the legitimate rights and interests of relevant companies while reserving the right to make further necessary reaction, the foreign ministry added. So this is where it gets worrying, everyone. We all know China is going to retaliate, and we don't know if this is going to turn into a tick for tack retaliation. And we all know there's been huge trade wars going on with China, but we don't want to get into a full-on conflict with China because that would just be the beginning of the end. And you know what's even more worrying, everyone? This wasn't the only balloon spotted. There was also another balloon spotted over Central and South America. So both balloons also carry surveillance equipment not usually associated with standard meteorological activities or civilian research, the official said. Collection pod equipment and solar panels located on the metal truss suspected below the balloon are a prominent feature of both balloons. So who knows how much more Chinese spy balloons are floating out there, and who knows if they're across Europe, Australia, etc. Now, Taiwan is also very worried about Chinese spy balloons floating over their airspace, and they have weighed in on the situation as well. So Taiwan authorities said on Sunday that the Chinese balloon incident should not be tolerated by the civilized international community. The self-governed island, which China claims as part of its territory, has experience of similar balloons overflying its territory. Taiwan said such actions by the Chinese Communist Party government contravene international law, breach airspace of other countries, and violate our sovereignty. And they called on China's government to immediately cease conduct of this kind that encroaches on other countries and causes regional instability. So again, everyone, it is time to get your house in order. I think this is the biggest story of 2023, and now we are more closer than ever to a full-on conflict with China. And do you know what's going to happen if we do enter an official conflict with China? You know the supply issues we had of 2020 and 2021? well, they're going to come back and they're going to get even worse with trade completely stopping. We already saw the US has entered a trade war with chips, so they know a confrontation is becoming very, very close. A lot of US officials or former US officials in the military said there could be a conflict by 2025, especially if they do try to take Taiwan. We all know that the US has said they'll back Taiwan. But on this channel, we like to talk about how this will affect the macroeconomic picture and how this will affect the markets. What this will mean is that the central bank will have to lower interest rates to zero. They'll have to print money like crazy so the US can fund this conflict. Because the US is already $31.5 trillion in debt, they've already drained their strategic petroleum reserves, so they're in a very vulnerable position. But if the central banks do this, the US could face the same fate Germany did after World War I. So everyone, I urge you, if you have the means, stock up on all essential items that you need. It's always good to be safe than sorry. If nothing happens, at least you have some emergency items there. You buy them before the price gets even more expensive, because it will only go up. Keep stacking that gold and silver, because that will outperform during times of uncertainty. And also you want to have some cash on the sidelines, because if this does create some kind of black swan event, we're going to see the markets absolutely plummet, and it could be a good buying opportunity. But everyone, I just want to reiterate, if we do enter a full-on conflict with China, what happens to your portfolio? Your portfolio falling 10% may be the least of your worries. So everyone, what do you think about this absolutely insane story? Let me know down below. Now, for all my loyal viewers and subscribers still watching, you're awesome. Thanks for watching. I'll see you all in the next video.